Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my disaster of a shop. This time we're going to be doing some shop improvements and just general cleaning and kind of, I haven't spent any time giving the shop any love for a long time, so it's time to kind of get the space a little bit more cleaned up, a little more organized, and a little more of it, have it be a little more inspirational for me, because right now I feel zero inspiration to do anything in here at this point. So first, a little background, what's been going on here. So 4 years ago, I moved from my old shop to this shop. I got things kind of set up, kind of in the stationary things where they needed to be. I didn't really move any of my existing wall storage or anything with me because I figured I would make some new stuff that serves my needs a little better, and that didn't really ever happen either. So I moved. I built the serpentine chest of drawers in here. Then we started on the house renovation. That was 3 years ago, doing all the framing and the foundation work and all that stuff. Then I had to move out of my warehouse space, so part of this shop became my fulfillment space for my chair kits. So that was kind of all messed up in here. Then we built the barn, and then I moved everything over there, got that kind of set up, and then I started making the flooring for the house. That would have been almost 2 years ago. Getting that run through here, and then for about the last year and a half, I've been doing cabinetry and trim in here, and this shop has kind of converted into a more quick production type shop, and definitely centered more around cabinet making and not furniture making, which is what I very much prefer. So we're gonna go through this in I guess two kind of big chunks or two big processes. Big kind of cleaning, get things moved out of here that shouldn't be in here. Just take care of putting all the little things away, getting the space kind of to a blank slate almost. And then I have some thoughts on different shop improvement things I want to do, kind of get those listed out so we have a plan for shop projects for the next however long it takes me to do all those things. And maybe you can let me know which ones you want to see done first or what kind of order you want to see them done in. And that's kind of how that's going to work. So first off is going to be this third bay in the shop. The shop is a 3-car garage. The first bay has the hand tool workbench area. The second bay is jointer, planer, table saw kind of stuff. And the third bay is supposed to be my metal working area. When I started working on the cabinets, I kind of reclaimed this area as the overflow space for sheet goods and materials and everything for all of that. And I took all the metal working stuff and just put it in storage in the barn. So the first thing is going to be working over here. And the first step over here is going to be dealing with all of this scrap and offcuts and stuff and get them out of here. So if you watch one of my shop organization videos back at the old shop, I sort of came up with this idea or mentality that the shop should be a workspace. It shouldn't really have any long-term storage of stuff in it. And the biggest thing was occupying space in my old shop was just scrap lumber and actually just lumber in general. For me, at the old shop, I had either the basement or the shed to store lumber in. Here I've got the barn or whatever, but there really isn't any reason to have long-term lumber storage in the workshop. The only lumber that should be in the shop is stuff that for the project you're currently working on or for an upcoming project that maybe you're waiting for the lumber to acclimate to the shop or something like that. So all of the lumber that's kind of in here right now is all stuff that's been sort of in use for making drawers, making face frames, making drawer fronts, doors, and then I already took all of the plywood out of here when I finished building all of the cases, all the boxes for the cabinets. That all the offcuts of plywood or whatever left because I was done dealing with all that. So I'm kind of going through and getting rid of whatever. And the first thing I want to do is actually get rid of all the stuff in the scrap bin. I forgot to mention too that all of this kind of stuff that's laying around has been from my most recent last run of stuff. And I think this video is going to come out before the videos I've been shooting dealing with all this. There's 3 kitchen videos that go along with all this stuff, finishing up all the cabinetry, all the drawers. I had the appliance panels, the kick plates, all of that stuff, the island drawers. I believe all of those are going to come out after this one because they're all waiting on something to be finished, something to come in or a piece of wood to dry, etc. So all of this stuff will make sense when those videos are released. Finally. And yes, I'm going to burn all this stuff to get rid of it now. When I first got into woodworking, I would save literally everything. I had bins and totes and piles of every little tiny scrap I ever had made because, you know, someday I might use it. And I think the more challenging part for me was I spent money on this and I hadn't quite realized that the waste is actually part of the cost that goes into a project. But when I did my lumber purge at my old shop, a lot of that stuff got burned at that point. So at this point in my life, it's like I can either burn this now and get rid of it now and have it be completely out of my life, or I can have it be in my way and look at it for the next 10 years and then burn it. Now for the smaller offcuts like this, I'm going to hold on to these and put them out in the barn. We just started moving into the new kitchen and just kind of trying to figure out where everything's going to go. So we have like all the stuff in the drawers just kind of loosely right now. And then once we actually confirm that this is the drawer we want these things to be in, I'll go ahead and make some drawer organizers. So all this stuff will get ripped and resawn into probably 1/4 inch thick boards that I can make little grids for all these drawers and help to organize things a little bit better. That's all the white oak. The other stuff we'll put in the pile over there, which we'll get to in a second. And as an aside, this kind of stuff, this is all the stuff that I used to use to make cutting boards. I'd make scrap wood end grain cutting boards, I don't know, once a year or something like that, out of all of the offcuts from that year. I don't do that anymore because I'm not that young anymore. It's a lot of work and I don't really get a whole lot of joy out of doing like that kind of production run type stuff. So I used to do batches of like 40 or 50 end grain boards at a time, and that's kind of how I got started in making things and selling them. I'd make all kinds of cutting boards, and then whatever I sold, all the money, all the profits from making the cutting boards went right back in the shop to buy something else for the shop or whatever thing I needed to make my life easier. Oh, here's a cool piece of crotch that I'm not going to be able to throw away or burn, so we're going to put that in the pile that hopefully someday I'll use. Or if someone wants to take it home with them, they can come get it. So now I'm going to deal with all of this stuff. This is all the things I've been kind of pre-sorting over the last few weeks. All these larger rips. This is all stuff that I would have used for cutting boards. Now this is all going to become stickers for drying wood. That's my way of getting some utility out of all of this stuff, and it gets rid of it as far as the shop is concerned. And I feel like I'm always needing more stickers. Back at my old house, I only had so much room for wood and stuff, so I only needed so many stickers because I got to a point where I've maxed out the storage capacity, and that was that many stickers. So in order to store more wood, I had to get rid of something, and then those stickers would get reused to the new stack. Now I just keep like adding stacks and stacks and stacks everywhere, so I need stacks and stacks and stacks of stickers. So I'm going to run through this pile and turn them all into stickers, and I'll make some more offcuts as well that we can take out back and throw in the bonfire ring thing. Get rid of that stuff. So I like to do my rough rips at the bandsaw, and then I will go through and plane all the stickers down to final thickness. I like doing that better than trying to saw a sticker to the thickness that I want, because a lot of these are like rough sawn boards. They're kind of rocky and wavy, and if you do that, your stickers will end up at inconsistent thicknesses and inconsistent shapes. In other words, the two faces are not parallel. That's what the planer allows me to guarantee, that the top and bottom are parallel and the whole sticker is a consistent thickness, because that's just the way I like it. And it makes me feel good. Okay, there is our stack of stickers ready to go for the next couple of sawmill videos, I guess. Actually, not really. In all reality, just to give you some perspective, this is enough stickers to do one log. All of this. I'll maybe get one log out of all that. So I'm going to get all this out of here, out to the barn with the offcuts and everything, and then we'll go through the next chunk of stuff. Okay, next on the list is to get this thing out of here. And I figured, since it's here, and I got a lot of questions on the miter saw, we can talk about that a little bit first. So I bought this thing to replace my 12-inch Makita almost 2 years ago. It was as I was doing the install of the flooring. I would have never thought about getting this saw, the Kapex, if Donovan didn't have it. So when he was here, this is the saw we used. I wheeled it out, I set it up, every day we were framing, taking it in and out of the trailer with the wings and everything, and I sort of saw firsthand for my use case and for the user experience, this is a much better setup than what I previously had. So a couple of the big things on the saw itself that got me excited about it is the dust collection. It's not perfect, but this little boot thing with an actual dust port on it and everything is like worlds better than what I had on my Makita. So like some kind of dust collection, I haven't been using any right at this moment. So there's stuff everywhere, but actually having some dust collection was like a huge plus, especially when you're working in the house, which what I was planning on having to do. And then the other thing was the easy access to the tilt, adjust, and lock. There's a little flap back here, and this dial allows you to set which limits you want. So this is 45 degrees in one direction. Sorry, that was 45 degrees in both directions. This is 45 degrees in only one direction. It stops there, it only tilts to the left. And then if you want to go past to 47 degrees, you can do that. My fences are in the way, but that I was really liking that because I'm just planning on doing a lot of trim. Like whenever I'm doing trim, I'm like back cutting and relief angling like everything. So having quick access to make the bevel adjustments is nice. And although I don't really use it that much, you can also adjust the bevel by turning this little handle here. So I was like, this is a much nicer user experience type thing for all the trim that I was gonna have to do, which if you watch the trim videos, I did a lot of trim. And as far as accuracy goes and all that, it's just as accurate as any other saw. So that's not really a big deal for me as far as what I was seeing as like a selling point. Because if the other saws are calibrated correctly, it shouldn't make a difference. But what really, got me excited about this is the use case for me for miter saws is I take them out for a little bit if I need some, like if I gotta cut some long stuff or if I have some weird stuff I have to cut. Previously, if you watched any of the furniture builds, like I think the last time I used the miter saw was when I did the serpentine chest. I had to put the angles, or I had to make the miter cuts on the bracket feet. I did that on the chop saw since I needed a little more cut capacity than I could get on the table saw. And like I would use it for like the gooseneck molding on the high boy and the secretary desk, where you wanted to have that piece of molding like up in the air and you're mitering it kind of floating. And then the only other time I would use the miter saw was around the house for doing trim work or like that kind of stuff. And how often do you need to do trim on your own house? So for me, it's all about portability and setup ability. So just having this thing on this little cart that you can quickly just boom and wheel it wherever you want, and it doesn't take up much space. It's not like one of those giant stands that you can get for your miter saw with like the built-in wings and everything, where it's this giant thing. You got this little stand cart thing. You can wheel it wherever. If you only want to use the saw by itself, you can do that. So like this, I could just set it up like this, and if I want to make some quick cuts, that's all I need. I can do that, or I can grab either of the wings, one or both, which they don't take up much space to store either. You can clip this thing on here, and then you have a full extension wing if you just want to do it to the left or to the right, or you can put both of them on, whatever you want to do. You have longer stock, this thing extends, so you can do stuff that's 8 feet long with a stop. So this just made sense for me. And real quickly, two things that I don't like about this saw. First off is the cost is absolutely asinine. Between the saw, the stand, the wings, I got the shop master blade because it's the same blade I had in my old saw. I like this blade a lot. I got the crown stops as well. I'm over $3,000 for this whole saw setup, so I don't like that the cost is bananas, but I'm happy with it in the sense that this suits my needs perfectly. Okay, the other thing that really bothers me about the saw is the guard. So what's annoying with this guard is it locks you out. So like I can't retract the guard to like put the tooth on the wood to like line up my cut that way. The only way to do that is to press the operator presence button up top, which you can't see. This little operator presence thing, and then like partially depress the trigger, and then it will release. And then you can kind of like get the blade guard out of the way and line up your cut like that. I don't like that at all, because the last place I want my hand to be when my other hand is near the blade down here is on the freaking trigger. So it takes some getting used to, and basically, yeah, I don't like it. I think that's just an example of them like trying to make it be too safe and like not really considering the use case of getting that guard out of the way for lining up cuts. I guess they figure you're going to use a laser. The laser's super nice and everything, but sometimes I just want to be able to get the tooth on the line, or if I'm using like a knife mark or something, I want to be able to get that blade right there. And It's just annoying. So this thing can get out of here. And what else we got? That's gotta get hung up. I think I'm gonna just put all the merch and stuff out in the barn. Yeah, I think I'll do that. That's probably the easiest thing to do with all of this, just to get it out of here. And then when someone actually orders something, I can just go get it from out there. And for those of you who did miss out on the Slabmaster tees, you still missed out on the signature edition, but I do have like the normal ones now available, or whatever you want to call them. It's just the logo on the front and nothing else. You got that in a t-shirt, as well as got in a ball cap kind of thing. And the hoodie, same print as the t-shirt. Blank back, blank sleeve, just the print on the front. And those are over on the website. That's my shameless plug for this episode. This video is sponsored by me. And in case you were wondering, yes, I do fulfill all of these orders myself. All this stuff is not some print on demand thing somewhere where someone else does all that, printing it and packing it and sending it to you. I do it all. It comes from right here. Sort of right here. Somewhere probably like over my desk, but here in this, somewhere around my house. So these things, these are all of the cut-offs to making drawers. I'm cutting all the dovetails. I've been saving them because what I want to do is similar to what I did with the Chaos cutting boards, where I took all the little pieces that were left over. I cast them into resin, and then those ones that turn into coasters. But I thought for this it'd be cool to make something for the kitchen, like either like a big like serving tray, or even just making like panels to make boards out of it and then join those together to make a cabinet or something. I don't know what I want to make out of these things yet, but I have them, and I think this is going to be a fun project once you figure out what it's going to be. And the methodology that I use, or that resonates best with me for the whole shop organization and setup kind of stuff, is 5S, which we have talked about before in my previous shop organization videos, but that one just seems to be the most like, the one that just kind of makes the most sense for me and kind of lace things out in a methodology that I can kind of follow, or not quite follow 100%, but at least leads me down the path to having some sort of more organized space. Those 5 S's are going to be sort, set in place, shine, standardize, and sustain. And what we're kind of doing here is still the first S. We're sorting, so we're kind of going through, finding the things that we need in this place that we're working, the things that we don't need in this place that we're working, and the things that we don't need at all that we can get rid of. And then from there you kind of start going down the path of actually setting them in place, of like building storage and finding places that make the most sense for those things. And then shining is just general cleaning, so I just vacuum the wall. That would kind of qualify as that. And that typically is as far as I get. I don't really get to standardize, but I do sort of get to sustain, because the idea there is that you just start the whole process over again, and you keep iterating through until there really isn't anything to improve. But if you at least get through sort, that will tell you so much about the things you have in your space, the things that you don't need in your space at all, and the way that you can set up your space to better facilitate a more productive work environment. And I know some people will say that, you know, Matt, you're spoiled. You have all this auxiliary space that you can put all these things you're not using. And while I 100% agree with that, I didn't always have that extra space, and these philosophies still kind of worked and still played well with what I was doing. So even if I didn't have the barn, at the old house, I had the shed, which I built specifically to get all of the like lawn and garden stuff out of my shop, because my shop was a garage. This is still a garage technically, but that shed allowed me to get all of those, like the lawnmower and the shovels and all that stuff, out of the shop, because they didn't make sense to be in a wood shop. Now, another concept similar to that would be you have an area in your shop that is not for like easily accessible things that are going to be more for long-term storage. So in here, what I could do is I would have like maybe you have like a bank of totes or shelves over here, and that's where you put all of, you know, these things that you don't need. They can go up high because you don't use them that often, and that would be the kind of the same thing I'm doing, except my shelf is not in here, it's in the barn. I just have a shelf out there for like stuff I don't use very often up there, like nailers. I don't use nailers in here basically at all. The only one that I will occasionally use is a pin nailer, and I might use that once every other year. I don't use a brad nailer in here. I don't use the finished nailer in here. Those only get used for like weird specific house projects, so there's no real point for me to keep nailers in here or have nailers be easily accessible in here because it's not a tool that I use in the space often enough. And sort of an example of things that should be close at hand, I got this little trim router. It goes right there. It's easy to get to the bench and it gets used fairly often, so it makes sense that it's out and available. There's a lot of stuff on here that needs to get removed that doesn't get used ever, that goes somewhere else, but we will get back to this as we make our way around the shop. Another thing that you might find weird about me and my shop is I don't use screws in my shop basically ever. I do have all of this stuff for hardware storage, which also doesn't really need to be in here because I don't use any of this stuff super often. But they kind of nest right there and perfectly, so I'm just going to leave them. All of this stuff I could put into one of these totes or containers, but I don't really feel like doing that right now either. So all of these screws that I used to do all the trim work in the house do not need to be in here. They can go on a shelf in the barn, and if I ever need them, they're 400 feet away. Don't need this right now. That's for a future project. Hammer. This can go in the toolbox where it belongs. Like a thing with a place. And it's been displaced by new tools. It's supposed to fit in here, but somebody bought some new stuff and decided to put that stuff in here. There we go. I think that's supposed to be in the truck. I have 3 staplers. One's truck, one's barn, and one's in here. I couldn't find the one in my truck today. Okay, I'm gonna start working around here and just kind of going through things kind of quickly to see like what I can do as far as like drawer space goes and things that are out or whatever. This drawer here can be pretty well empty completely out. This is like when I used to rebuild chainsaws that have like, here's the old, I think this is even a bad one. No, that's okay, there's a cylinder. There's a full rebuild kit that I don't really need. These definitely don't need to be in here, and I'm not going to use them, so that's like an example of things that I can sell. There's a clutch cover off of some saw. Don't know what that's from. I kept this for some reason. This is the first saw that I rebuilt. It was a 039. It was like the first chainsaw I ever had. I just kept this just because it was cool. This might be one of those things you hang on the wall. You can tell how hot and damaged that got because that bearing is completely shot. But that's what's inside a chainsaw. Just a crankshaft and a piston. What's this? It's a carb kit for, I don't know what saw that's for. I got it. There's a gasket, and a dog. Like a little bin, I think. And over here I got like the vacuum testers and the pressure, whatever, the compression tester kit things. I saw a piece of this floating around somewhere. These don't need to be here. I'm not testing chainsaws anymore. H-clips, in case I need to do a roof. There it is. This thing goes with this. This is the First time I tried doing a full blind dovetail. I don't know if I need this. I might just get rid of that. So anyway, just like that, we got a whole drawer that's actually useful that we could actually put things in and actually use versus just being storage for stuff that never ever gets used. So I can put some of my table saw stuff in here because I need to actually make a real table saw cabinet, or whatever, table saw storage cabinet. That's item number 1 on the list. So I just have things kind of floating right here right now. So what I really like to have is like an actual storage unit that mounts under this extension wing. I'm really torn whether or not I want it to be its own independent thing that you can kind of move around, or I think ideally, which would be really nice, is it be integrated into the table saw itself, into the base. So when you move the saw, you pick the saw up onto the wheels, the whole thing kind of goes with it. I think that'd be more convenient than having like some kind of storage unit that's on wheels that you can kind of slide in and out and move around to get it out of the way. But that's item number 1 on the to-do list. So we'll put that one on the list. And I think I'm gonna get rid of that. I don't use that ever. And then, ow. Maybe we'll put the, let's put the miter sets in there. That might be a good thing to put in there. I built this little cabinet thing in the old shop, like right before I started making videos. So the main reason that I wanted to have a little cabinet over here for all my table saw stuff is simply because, well, I end up just leaving it right here on top of the router table. Every single time I want to use the router table, I take all my table saw stuff off, and then where I put it back on the table saw. And then when I use my table saw again, it goes back on the router table. It's got blade storage, which is super nice. And then I just made like this big open cavity up top here that I was gonna put like a shelf in, but I never really got around to that. And I didn't have that much stuff when I first built this thing. So that was enough for just some random things here and there. But now the blade storage is all, that's a blade in there. And you can slide your blades in there and get them kind of all out of the way, which is nice. I feel pretty good about that already. We got some progress. All that stuff's been bothering me for a long time. So I'm gonna go through here. As you can see, I haven't been in here since I moved. I'm gonna get rid of a lot of this stuff. I already know what's in here, things I don't need at all. Now, the first thing we got here, we got the stuff from my old table saw. Jake bought my old rigid saw years ago, and I forgot I had all these things, the guard assembly and this box joint jig. So I'm gonna see if he still wants these at all, and I will get those to him. Otherwise, I'll just toss them, because what am I gonna do with these? There is my tenoning jig, which I haven't had to do any kind of crazy angled tenon stuff in a while, so this hasn't gotten used. I don't really want to get rid of it quite yet, but it's not something that needs to be in here. And while we're here with the drum sander, this is one of the things that keeps like flip-flopping in my head of whether or not this should be in the shop or it should be something that I can bring in when I need it, because I use it so rarely. When I made cutting boards, I use this thing all the time for like everything in cutting board production. Now I might use it once a year, twice a year, just for like thicknessing veneers or something like that. Doesn't see a whole lot of use, takes up a fair amount of floor space, but I don't know. It's one of those things like whenever I need it, I can just go get it from the barn and bring it in here. But at this point, I have enough kind of floor space for stuff like this, so I think I'm going to leave it at this point. It would really be really nice to have like an actual storage cart underneath it, but that's not. We'll put it on the list, but I'm going to put it at the bottom because that's not like a huge, big concern for me. But I guess if it is in the shop, it might as well not be completely dead space underneath. And as you can see, this is how it sort of serves me as more table space for crap. So as we get around here to the assembly table and stuff, this is where I'm really excited to make some actual changes. because the area around the assembly table, this work area, should be all the things that I'm using while doing my final assembly or doing something with the workbench. The things that are stored in here should be used on a very, very frequent basis. If they're not frequently used, they should not be in this general area. So I'm very excited to get rid of this. I have this 24-inch dovetail jig down here, which made a lot of sense when I first got this thing. I had high grand intentions of using it all the time, and I made this shelf specifically for it so it could just nest in here, and when I wanted to use it I could just put it up onto the table. Yeah, I had it. Well, I got it. I use it for several projects. I realized that I don't really like this at all. I much prefer my weird hand-cut dovetail approach. That is far more enjoyable for me than using a router jig, sitting here with like 8 different test pieces, doing a bunch of test setups to make sure everything is set up correctly, and then just standing here with a screaming router. There is no joy in that for me. So I kind of moved away from using it, and I kept it because I said to myself, if I ever do a kitchen, I kind of want to have it to do all the dovetail drawers. And then, well, you know what just happened? I did a whole kitchen, and I didn't use this thing at all. And the other thing in my head was like, well, if I ever need this to like talk about it in a video or something, I'll have it. I've been making videos for 11 years. I have used this in one video for a quick example. So about, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago, on one of the live streams, we did a giveaway. We gave this thing away. And now I'm just finally getting around to getting it out of here. So the giveaway was, I asked the question, what is the only video that I showed this thing in? And Matthew, who's on the live stream asking great questions all the time, happened to know, like, I can't snap my fingers, but it was pretty quick and pretty impressive. So he wins this, and I'm finally getting around to getting it out of here. So I've been collecting boxes for a while, and getting rid of this is going to free up not just the space right here on this custom rollout shelf thing, but all of the accessories down here that go along with it. So there's the dust hood thing, like goes on there, so you can, this way I guess, somehow it goes on the, whatever. You know how dust hoods work. You got that, that's gonna go with it. Those are the plans for the house. Oh, here, this is the whole box of, like, if you want to do box joints, there's the templates, the screwdriver things, the guide bushings, that all goes with it. There's the single pass half blind template and slide dovetail template. That goes with it too. Instructions, gotta have instructions. Those can go with it. There's some more instructions for it. These were like prototype custom wooden bike seats as a concept that it looks like something else, but they're bike seats. That was a concept that never went anywhere. I could probably get rid of those, and realistically most everything in this drawer I don't really need. So look at that. And this drawer too. This is supposed to be the most frequently used things. So it should be like my little scraper for scraping the glue, and you know, it should be glue up accessories. And maybe bulk storage for like the marking tools, like the pencils and things. But this has turned into like a giant junk drawer, which I'm changing today. And I think the best way to do this is to take out everything that I want to keep, and then we're going to get rid of everything else. Many years ago, I cut a spalted silver maple, and I cut through this thing, which I wasn't sure what it was at the time because this was the cross section, and I thought it was some kind of wire and a staple. Almost everyone said this was a piece of barbed wire, and this is what it actually was. The buyer of the slab didn't end up using this section of it and extracted it, and that is what it is. It's a wire clamp clip thing, or part of it at least. So that's what that was. I'm gonna put that in my stuff and trees collection. And most of what I'm left with is honestly Allen wrenches, hex keys, hex wrenches, whatever you want to call them. All the ones that came with random tools over the years that aren't organized. And they're not even stamped with their sizes. So I don't feel the need to keep those. I have better sets of these things kicking around. Here's a nice one with a ball end. That doesn't even say what size it is, so never mind. Don't care. All right. Nope, forgot these tweezers. You ready for this? This is so much more useful. The things I actually need are here. I still got room for other things I might find useful in the spot too. I feel a whole lot better about this. This is, if I did anything today, this is the biggest highlight of my life right here. I don't have to dig through a bunch of crap that I never use anymore. So moving on to this desk thing, I'm not going to do too much here or cover too much with this, but I think this is a really kind of interesting example of how the shop needs evolve and change over time. So I built this thing as a little like storage area and desk combination because I used to have a desktop computer out here. I would use that for if I needed to, get plans or do some quick drawing in SketchUp or something like that. But the primary thing I used it for was for streaming music to my stereo down here. I don't use either of these anymore. I don't use my stereo anymore since I started making videos because having the music on in the background doesn't really make any sense for editing. And what I used to do is I used to have the music on and then I'd turn the music off every time I had to record something, which got annoying. So then I got into earbuds, and that's why you see me wearing earbuds all the time, because I'm listening to something so you can't hear it. That's all to say is that I don't need this receiver in here. Actually, this isn't even on anything. This is all the cables for the live stream. Yeah, there's my monitor. I don't use that either. But I don't need a desktop in here anymore because I never use it. And this space could, in theory, be better utilized as some other kind of storage in the shop. This compartment was specially sized for these two things, so I don't necessarily know what can go here, but I will take them out of here because there's no point of them being here taking up space. And inspiration can come to me later. Okay, a couple of quick last things to get out of here before moving on. So my lathe, I store out in the barn, sort of like I was thinking about the drum sander. It can come in here whenever I want to use it, but it does take up a lot of floor space and it's kind of wasted space because I don't use it that often. I still want to have one because I do use a lathe to turn furniture parts every now and then. But what that leads me to is, why is all the lathe stuff in here? Why can't I just put it into one of these totes? And then if I ever want to turn anything, I just grab the tote and bring it in here with the lathe. And it's all in one place, ready to go. So that's what this is going to be. Cleaning out all these drawers and giving these drawers a little more space for something more useful that's so close to the proximity of my workbench. So for everyone that's wondering, Matt, you just stick all stuff out in the barn and you're just making a pile of crap out there? Not really. I have a bunch of these totes that they have lids and they stack. I can label them and then you can put them up on a pallet rack. I've got that 24-inch deep pallet rack in the back. These fit up there perfectly, this way. So that works out really nicely. And actually that's almost still kind of empty. I could have grabbed a smaller one. Well, we might move that over to a smaller one once it's out there. Actually, there's a couple other things in here that don't really make any sense to have in here. Again, this is like the top drawer on that side. This should be all the more frequently used things that actually get used. There is nothing in here that's frequently used. I've mentioned already that I don't use my nail guns ever, so there really isn't a reason why I should have all these nails in here. These can go and be stored with the guns. And these are staples for some staplers somewhere. I don't know where that stapler went. So these can all get out of here and get going. Chisels. These are my first set of chisels. There was a third one. I don't know what happened to it, but the steel on these are absolutely horrible, and I never learned how to sharpen a chisel. So I used them and used them and used them, and I was like, these aren't very good. So then I went out and I bought this set of marbles from Home Depot, and I was like, oh, these are a little bit sharper. They're doing really well and whatever. I used them. And I'm like, maybe I should learn how to sharpen. And it wasn't until that point when I realized that, oh, they weren't that sharp to begin with out of the box, because that's how I was using them, just out of the package. And these are a lot nicer to use once they're actually sharp and nice and usable. So that was my adventure with chisels. So first set, second set, and then the ones, I have a bunch more sets in the hand tool cabinet that I actually use. So these, I might just need to send them off to a good home. I kept them in case I needed some crappier chisels or whatever, but again, it's been however many years and they haven't come out of here, have been used, so that might be a sign that they might need to go to somebody who needs a starter set of chisels. But anyway, we're making baby step progress here. I think what I'm going to do with this newfound space here is that's going to be the perfect place to stick all the cables and stuff for the live show, so that on Fridays, if we do end up doing a show, I have all the things I need all right here and ready to go, as it should be. Okay, I think I'm done with sort for now. That's, I think, a lot of progress. One thing is, like, it would be a lot to sit here and do a full sort on this entire shop, but the idea is that, like, you do it and you iterate through, and you don't have to do it all at once. That helps to make it a lot more manageable. So now we're going to get into set in place, which another common phrase for that is everything has a place and everything in its place. So the hand tool cabinet is kind of a really good example of this. This cabinet has all the things that I'm going to need to use at the workbench. It's in close reach. Everything has a little spot to go, so when I go and clean up the bench, I have a spot to put everything back exactly where it needs to be for storage. And also it is, I guess, organized in a way that makes sense for what's going to be used most commonly. So with this thing having the double doors on it, I have the secondary stuff inside of here. So if I'm not using, I don't use mortising chisels very often. I don't use full-size bench chisels very often. I don't carve very often. There's no reason for those tools to be as easily accessible as all the ones that I use, most commonly. So what I want to do is kind of extend this thought onto this wall. Let's put that on the list. We'll call this the tool wall. But I have all this wall space here and into the corner that's right here by the bench, and it would be a great spot for all the things that I might use around the bench that don't necessarily need to be in a hand tool cabinet. So I put some of these things up here a couple of years ago, the drawing bows and the French curves and everything. But one of the things that I acquired, I guess, as part of the cabinetry build is all these, the woodpeckers, the rulers and the squares and whatnot. And I would like to actually put these and store them on the wall so they're right at hand and they actually have somewhere to go, because right now the place they have to go is sitting on top of this desk in a giant cluttered mess. So there's that. One little, I guess, hack or tip or whatever, if you're ever looking to buy something from woodpeckers that I learned, if you sign up for their email list, they have some tool on sale every day. And there's 365 days in the year. So the chance the thing you're looking for, if you're not in a rush, will go on sale is pretty high. That's kind of what happened here. I bought this at full price and I got subscribed to their email thing. And I started getting an email every day with things that are on sale. Where did my other square go? Where's my 18? That's where this one came from. That's why I got the 18 and I got the 12 as well. So a little something there. The 12 came with this because the only thing that was on sale was the full kit without the holder. So I don't really want to put this on the wall like this, especially if it doesn't fit with the tab anymore. Okay, it's really tight. I don't really want to hang this whole thing on the wall. I'd rather have them nested together like I do up in here or something. So we're going to make some holders for these. I got the rulers, which just have holes in them. I can hang on a nail, just like I have all the other ones. And this is going to have to go like right there or down here. I don't know. And then lastly, I have all the track saw tracks. In the old shop, I made this track saw holder thing, and this fit the tracks behind the entry door to the shop. So I will probably end up hanging this somewhere on here as well to get the tracks somewhere to go. Although I don't know if this is the best area, but that's kind of part of the adventure. If it doesn't work out, we can always move the storage location to somewhere else that makes, more sense. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. Eventually, I'd like to also hang my mallets probably up here somewhere. Kind of get that done as part of this tool wall idea, especially with the mallets right now. They just get thrown under the bench, which kind of works, but you don't really know, because there's not an actual spot for them to visually see if they're put away, if they're floating around somewhere. You don't really know until you go looking for it in the moment. The other thing I have over here are on my F-style clamps. These are the ones I use at the workbench the most often. The 12-inch and shorter are hanging on the planer. That works out really well. But these, I think maybe some kind of clamp rack that puts them over here on this wall might be a good use of space. And speaking of clamp racks, that's going to be another project for the list. Since I use the parallel clamps mostly just at the assembly table, I would like to have a clamp rack over here and kind of utilize the space that's kind of weirdly taken up here next to the dust collector. I had a clamp rack for these at the old shop, but I didn't bring it with me. I threw it away thinking I'd make something new and better. But I like the style of parallel clamp racks where they're flush or mounted this way against the wall, which takes up more wall space, but I don't really like the ones that mount them like this and have them sideways. We could have multiple deep. For whatever reason, still doesn't jive with me. And then the other clamp rack just had like a shelf on top. So some kind of clamp rack with a little bit of extra storage for maybe other little doodads that might have to do with the drill press. So we'll put that on the list as well. Before I move on from this bay, I kind of have a feeling like this might be a better way to store boxes of sandpaper. Just have them down in this drawer. I don't think this is the best way for like usability's sake, but it's better than the current system, which is just to leave them piled up all over the shop, especially over here where my router table used to be. So this is at least a step in a better direction, if not the perfect direction. Yeah, so that's that drawer. I think for the time being, until I find something better to do with this space, this could be a good spot for the sustainers or any extra power tool boxes or anything like that. They're going to be in the shop. Ugh. What is this? This is the connectors set. This is, I think this is the actual domino. That's good, I can put that away. Should be done with using this all the time. That's a nice relief. I'm missing this thing. And there's the domino assortment pack, which does fit. Yeah, that'll work. Kind of stack those there, get a domino there. There. If you really need it, you can just pull it out and there it is. So that's way better, if anything. Okay, next for a really quick shop improvement fix that I've been putting off for too long. This drop for the dust collection is supposed to be angled more like this, but the issue is that the weight of this hose pulls it down to at least vertical, and a lot of times pulls it back this way. It's supposed to be angled back this way with enough hose so that the planer can be in the two positions. The fully exposed position for running long stuff, which I don't do super often making furniture, and then the, I guess, a nested position with it kind of parked right here. You can get about 4 feet between the planer and the assembly table for the full width if I need to do anything like that, or if I run long boards that are a little narrower, up to about 6 inches, I can do that on just the right side without moving the planer. But since I don't plane long stuff super often, the planer doesn't really have to be pulled out too frequently. So I have an extra cable hanger from when I did the install. I'm just going to use that to secure the duct work, and that should solve that problem. Well, Matt's hardware store was out of J hooks, but I had some I hooks, so switched to some rebar tie wire. But that's how the line is supposed to be. It's supposed to kick over out of the way so that the the outfeed bed area is clear of the whole drop and all that, and that one goes that way. So problem solved, finally. Okay, the next little bit of shop reconfiguration is going to be to take the table saw and outfeed table and shift it to the left a little bit into the third bay. I've already kind of shifted where the planer is now to free up some space, so this walkway between the bench and the planer is nice and girthy, and that tightened this up a little bit too much, but I have enough room between the table saw and this dust collection drop to go that way. And there's still plenty of room in that third bay to kind of maneuver and walk around. So we're going to go to the left about a foot. The table saw is the easier one. I can just put that up on the wheels and scoot it over. To get the outfeed table to go over, I could drop it off of the leveling feet and onto the wheels, or I could just bring the skid steer in here and scoot it over a little bit. And while I am skid steering, I'm gonna get all these stuff moved out to the barn and start bringing back some of the metalworking shop stuff. Some of you may have noticed that this welding table looks different than the one that used to be in here. That is because shortly after I built my other one, Jason from Tools, he saw that video and he sent me a message and asked me if he could send me one of their new fixture tables and some accessories to go with it. No strings attached. He just wanted me to have something a little nicer, which this is definitely a lot nicer. This is what I actually really wanted, but definitely could not justify spending that money at this point in my life, especially because I'm not that great at welding and stuff and fixturing and all that stuff. But that's just, I guess, how it works sometimes. In complete no strings attached fashion, this whole setup has been sitting out in the barn for 2 years now, almost 2 years, and it has been serving as a fantastic work table for standing between coats of paint for all of the, not even just paint, any finish, drawers, face frames, doors, drawer fronts, whatever, anything I was spray finishing out in the barn. This is the table I use to support the work pieces while sanding them all. So it's finally here in the shop, and you'll finally see some actual use, which I'm very much looking forward to. This thing is also much, much heavier than the other one. I believe the other one's like 400 pounds, 3 to 400 pounds. This one is 1,200 pounds, 1,100 pounds, somewhere kind of in that range. So it's definitely beefier. It's got these really great big casters on it, and it also has adjustable legs, which is super nice. The other table I got, the standard height that comes with it, is way too high for me. It's great if you want to work up in here, but I was planning on just taking the casters off and moving it around with the skid steer whenever I need to move it. And that would have saved me like 5 inches of height. But this is the best of both worlds. You get the adjustable height and you get the casters and everything. So that's exciting. The accessories pack thing came with this cart as well, which is going to be a nice way for me to organize a lot of the welding stuff that goes with all of this. And that's going to allow me to free up some space in my toolbox as well, where I have a bunch of welding stuff too right now. So I am excited for a much more organized welding space. And since this thing is still on wheels, I can move it around. Or if I want to work on something that's not wood related, I have this nice metal, steel work surface to do things on. And in a second, I'll get the vise, and we'll mount the vise on here, so I'll have a nice, let's say, I'll call it dirty work area, but things you don't want to get greasy or oily, like you would if I wouldn't want to work on, I don't know, pressing bearings or a cylinder rebuild on my split top Roubeau. But on this thing, yeah, why not? The next thing I'm going to deal with is this disaster over here. I bought this cordless power tool rack thing, I don't know, 3 years ago probably. So I'm going to mount that up here somewhere. This allows you just to put your drills or whatever on this little holder. It gets them kind of in their own little area. That's going to free up a bunch of space in this drawer, so this drawer can be more useful because it's like the top drawer where all the cool, important things are supposed to be. And maybe someday I'll find that fourth or fifth tool holder that came with it that I can't find. Okay, this is a lot better. It's kind of nice to see an actual tabletop here. The rotary table will find some new home once the Bridgeport's back together over there. And with these up here, these are not necessarily like the most commonly used tools that I use, but out of this drawer they kind of are. And at a minimum, at least, the tools that I do have in here, like the grinders, don't really, these are the most commonly used tools, but the bottoms are angled. So if you put them on there, they're going to stick out kind of like that, which is kind of weird. But regardless, at least now I don't have to be as careful with where I put these things back in this drawer because there's more dead space. So this is another pretty exciting success. Okay, so pivoting around through here, we got the Bridgeport stuff, which I will deal with next video later on, whatever. This is going to be the next project, so I'm not that worried about that corner. Kind of last thing I want to go through in this video is this back wall and get these three tools kind of situated and just clean up this area quite a bit more. So the first thing on the list here is the router table. There's a bear. The router table. I've had that in the shop for about 1.5 years now, and we'll talk about this in a second, but I used to have my router table when I had the Triton Work Center. I had that over by the Cyclone, kind of in this general area here, which worked out pretty well for it because it did not have a like a 4-inch dust port on it to be hooked into the main dust collection system. It was built to use dust extractor fittings. I think it's like with the 27mm ports that you would have like on a shop vac or a dust extractor. So I had it here because it had to be hooked up to a vacuum whenever I wanted to use it. So this kind of made sense. But because the new one has actual dust port on it, it goes and it gets hooked into the dust collection system. So there's no drop here, and it's pretty darn close to add a drop. So it's kind of gonna live somewhere else, and all this stuff has to go somewhere else too. This is all the stuff that I have been meaning to hang on the wall since moving and haven't gotten around to it. Who's that thing? I've had that for a while. So this one's got this mobile base on it, which makes it really easy to kind of wheel around and put it wherever you want. So I don't necessarily need this to be like ready to go all the time, always hooked up. So what I've been doing is kind of setting it over here and then rolling it over to the bandsaw area where I can just take the drop off the bandsaw and plug it into this guy. But a lot of you asked me about this over the last year and change, so let me run through kind of what this setup is for you. So this essentially is the full router table package from Harvey. And the one thing about the Harvey router table package is it does not come with a lift. They don't have their own, so you have to buy whatever lift you want. So that is the Woodpecker's, was it the HDS? It's got the steel top, and it still has the quick adjust on it, which I quite like a lot. So the quick adjust is really nice when you're doing bit changes to get things into, you know, their rough position or whatever you need them to be in. So you have this tool here, as well as this tool. So you have your normal standard router crank for your fine adjustments. But if you want to do anything coarse, like if I wanted to take this bit out of this table, which I might as well do while I'm here, and put this long springy thing down in here. And now you can move the whole router quickly up and down, drop it where you want it and do your fine adjustments with this thing. So not having to crank the bejesus out of a crank to get your router bit high enough to change it is quite a nice luxury. Now, the biggest reason I got this lift was to continue the kind of magnetic top. So we have the cast iron top from the Harvey router table, and then the steel top here from woodpeckers, so I can use my magnetic feather boards, my magnetic power feeder mounts, whatever. I can put them anywhere on the table without having to worry about, them not sticking. So that's kind of the big things with the router lift. Now for the router table package, they're all kind of sold individually. You can buy them all and have everything. So we have the mobile base, which has 2 fixed casters and 1 swivel caster for steering things around. So you got 3 casters, then you have 4 leveling feet. So when you drop it off the casters, if the floor isn't quite right, you can adjust the leveling feet to get this thing not wobbling around on you. The other thing on here is the dust shroud. So that's another thing you can add to the package that just encapsulates the router motor and allows you to have dust collection. The router I have in here is the Triton 3 1/4 horsepower router thing. It's this router here. This one happens to be in a base right now. Take this out of here. So that's the same router motor that's currently mounted in here. So that is the downstairs bits. For the upstairs parts, first off is the tabletop itself. So this is a cast iron tabletop, and this is intended to be, or optionally can be, bolted to a table saw and have this be a cast iron extension wing / router table assembly thing. So they have 2 different sizes. They have the big size, which is this one. This is made for the industrial size saws. So in my case, I have the SawStop Professional series. This is too big to be bolted to my saw. So if I want to put this setup into my table saw, I would have had to buy the smaller top or whatever. There's 2 sizes, the big giant size, this, and the normal size, which would fit into my table saw if I actually wanted this to be in my table saw, which I have no interest in. The other thing is going to be the fence. This fence is stupid expensive. It's like $800, which is a crazy amount of money. This is the only thing I wrestle with on this purchase. Otherwise, it is amazing and incredible. Having everything be smooth and perfect. You have the flip stops, which are beefy and smooth and don't deflect at all. The adjustable back of things, they slide nicely. But one of the things that's super nice that I've been using a lot, especially with stuff like this, is the adjustable offset fence. And this side is your, whatever you want to call it, micro adjust. So you can lock that down and spin this, and that'll move the entire fence assembly by, 1/1000th of an inch per tick on here. So it allows you for some really nice adjustability if you want to just dial things in really nicely. I've never had this before. The way I micro adjusted a fence position before in the past was keep one side locked in and rack the fence in and out a little bit to get just a little bit of change. So this is quite a lot more streamlined than what I'm used to. So on this side, you can see I have just a slight adjustment right now. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. So that'll pull it back. But if I wanted to offset this outfeed fence up to 1/4 inch past the line of the infeed fence, it's super easy to change this setting. So if you're doing any a jointing operation or any operation where you might be removing part of the edge you're routing. Now there's only one thing that I really dislike about this, and that is this hose setup. It's really annoying because then you can't put this thing tight to the wall when you're not using it. So I'm going to try and see if this makes a difference. Do it like this instead. This is one of those little things that has been on my to-do list to try for a long time. It might allow it to flex out of the way. But we'll test it. This is another one of those things for the list, is some kind of actual integrated storage for all the things that you might need. Because that's the other really annoying thing about this, is that I don't have any decent way to store all of the accessories you need to operate this thing. So other than that small thing, I've been really happy with this. The weird thing about it is it's more like a luxury thing because it didn't add any more like new functionality to the shop, but it's made things a lot more, I don't know, easy and luxurious to do. It's a luxury purchase, I guess. It's kind of like heated seats in your car. You know, doesn't make you able to get anywhere any differently. You're just more comfortable along the way. I think that'll work with the hose like that. That's nice. Good. Check this out. There's like room to walk around and move. The surfaces are clear, and it just feels like an actual productive workspace. Here's a quick little walk around so you get a better feel for how things look and are organized now. There is a ton of space back here behind the table saw to walk. We got this nice big aisle now. And even though we moved the table saw over, this space is still plenty wide. That's nice and ready to go. If I need to do anything over here, that feels better than a bunch of clutter. Still plenty of wall space if I ever want to do something with that. But otherwise, there is kind of a look at the shop. So now the space is ready to go. Time for some new projects, which I'm really excited about. So I got two that I'll share as far as things that are upcoming. First off, here in the shop, we'll be doing the breakfast nook table and bench. That'll be over in the guild, so I'll be doing that as a class. I haven't done one of those in 4 years, so I'm really looking forward to getting back to teaching, and that'll be my 10th course, which I'm pretty darn excited for. So that's going to be here kind of in the wood shop space. And then over here in the metal shop, the next project, the thing I'm going to start on next is going to be to finish the Bridgeport, putting it back together. That's been sort of an evolving thing over the last few years. It's been out of service for 4 years now because I haven't gotten around to putting it back together. But at the start of COVID, I got kind of pulled into this whole idea of fully disassembling and restoring this machine. I originally wanted to have the ways ground and scraped back in. So I reached out to a local shop to see what that would cost, and also if they were interested in having me come out to do a video about that process. The cost on the ways was $1,500 per axis. So with 3 axes, that is $5,500. Back then, 4 years ago, I had the budget that I could just kind of throw at a fun video like that. I was looking forward to being able to see that process and share that process. I didn't need a machine that had that perfect tolerances. This machine with its condition held the tolerances that I needed for the things I was doing, but I figured that would be a good opportunity for an interesting video and learning experience for everyone. It's not really in the budget anymore, and it's probably even more now. It's been 4 years, so that money, if I had it, would be probably more useful as some other sort of investment in the shop, like a metal lathe or something else for the wood shop or whatever. So it's just going to go back together as it was. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, I started stripping the column to paint it because I thought, oh, we're taking a whole thing apart. We can do a full paint job. I guess I will paint it because it's half stripped now, but having just painted a whole kitchen, painting a machine sounds like the worst thing I can do. But at least it's doesn't have to be as perfect, maybe. All right, that is the new and improved, well, I guess not really new, but definitely improved workspace. I haven't been this happy in a long time. And as someone who uses this space to express their creative outlets, I haven't really felt like this space was all that nurturing of anything creative for the last however long it's been that I've been doing house stuff. So I am very happy to have us back and reset to doing the things that I actually enjoy and that I actually love. If you get anything from this, I want to share this one thing. As someone who struggled with clutter and just too much stuff, really the only thing that I've done here, the only real thing that's happened in this space is I have removed the things that I don't need to use in the space from the space. That's really the crux of it. The things I don't use every day, they don't need that often, don't need to be stored in the workspace. You can apply that to just little tiny areas within your shop. If you have like the workbench area or something, you know, things that don't need to happen around the workbench shouldn't be stored there. Or you can apply it to a whole shop like I have. It changes the way you work and the way you think about your workspace. It makes things quite a bit more efficient. The downside is that once you start going down that rabbit hole, you can never go back. So you'll be seeing the last remaining kitchen videos coming out shortly. That's where that one is at. That's going to be the island drawers. That's the door panel that goes with the drawers. It's waiting for the panel to dry. And then this is on the other side of the island, the drawer cavity that we don't know what we're doing with yet. So once those are out of the shop, that means that all those videos are fully shot. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you, as always, for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the shop insanity, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking. Finally woodworking.